on Facebook and YouTube right now. Yeah, you can find us in both places. Just for an experiment today, I also did 4 Facebook Lives, so you can look for those on Facebook in the Rewiring the Mind um, page. And I did 4 minis, and they're like under 10 minutes. They're all around 5 to 7, maybe 8 minutes tops. And they were super cool, super fun to do, quick, and had a blast doing it. Also did a 30-minute, 35-minute long profiling session with Flavia. She was going to try and jump on this call. She signed up, but she couldn't make it. She says she's going to be on next week, and that's super good. Great gal. I really enjoyed her. She's homeschooling 5 of her kids, and so all the children are under 10. So it's a handful and a half. And I just got a text from her. Hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but her husband watched the Facebook Live that I did in the profiling session, and in short said it was great, actually. So I should be more specific. I don't think he used the word great, but it was a very positive result. So anyway, Flavia, yeah, signed up. I'll be on webinar tonight. Husband listened to it. We talked about it for a while, quite a while actually. So yeah, really liked it. That's what she says. He really liked it. So anyway, so I don't have an angry husband coming after me right now, so that's a good thing. Always a good thing. Anyway, low probability of that happening. Cool. So we're into success language. Do you guys want to find out about success language? Yes, I see one.
Give me some of that.
Yeah, 3 heads nodding. Yeah, 4 heads. Okay, so 4 heads. I crack myself up sometimes. Anyway, okay. Hey, Katrina, good to see you. So glad you joined. And now we have 0 panelists. So did you just add her, or what happened?
I just added her, but she was an attendee. I asked her if she wanted to.
Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. So that's totally great. Glad you could make it. Loved your photo on Facebook there, Katrina. I thought it was just gorgeous. Gorgeous picture of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, just such a nice photograph. It looked so peaceful, your head on the pillow and all. So anyway.
Yeah, it was an effective day, so.
Yeah, I had one of those too. I had a very effective day as well. I hope you guys did as well. Yeah, so life is good. Made some decisions. Just should make some announcements. We're going to slowly move over, not that slowly, but fairly quickly move over to just branding everything under Blair Dunkley, because it's, I think, a better move and than doing, rewiring the mind. It's the Blair Dunkley experience. Every business I've gone into has called it Blair's World or the Blair Dunkley experience, or, Blair's mind models, or Blair's this, Blair's that, or Blair Dunkley group training and Dunkley training, all of the above. So depending on the different businesses, yeah, brand you. That's right. And so that's what I'm doing, is branding me slowly but surely. So, and thank you, Rebecca, for your comment. And Rebecca's here, and Tim is as well. Cool. If you guys want to jump on, just, you know the drill, raise your hand and you're on as well. So thank you. Okay. So for that, success language. So where does language come from? Katrina, pop quiz. You probably don't know the answer, but I'm going to put you on the spot anyway. So where does language come from in your brain? Do you have any idea?
Is it the Broca's area?
You know what? That's part of it. That is true. But the Broca area is in a larger part of the brain, which is
frontal.
No, it's actually not the frontal lobe. It's actually, anybody else want to try something? Sure, go for it, Pamela.
The temporal lobe.
Correct. And we have a winner. Yes.
I'm a good student.
Yes, you are. You're an avid student. Yes, it is the temporal lobe. And there are research pieces that I've seen done where they actually started looking at how people formulated questions and connected information. And all of these language pathways for questions and answers all flowed through, connected all the areas, but all flow through the temporal lobe. Now, I'm going to share my screen here for just a moment. So this green area, you guys see my cursor moving around here in the green area? Good. So the green area here is the temporal lobe. Frontal lobe, you actually have another portion here called the prefrontal lobe, which is even more for the decision-making and executive function of the brain. They call it parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and cerebellum, and brainstem. And in the middle here, back behind and right about here is going to be the amygdala. It's buried in here, and it's again, if you take both hemispheres away, you have this little mini brain looking thing, and it's called the amygdala, and it's nowhere close to as folded or whatever. It's smoother skinned, or looks smoother membrane, and generally looks like a lizard's brain, and that's where they refer to it as a lizard brain, or our primitive brain. And we evolved this more complex brain around us. But every part, as you can see, every part, including the amygdala, is touching the temporal lobe. And no other part of your brain actually has the real estate to touch all the other parts of the brain. And that's significant. Now, what do you think makes it significant? Brent, what do you think makes it significant?
I'm sorry. It's just
I have no
hearing you. I was studying the picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's no problem.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick on Sarah Lynn.
Yeah.
What do you think makes that significant? And we have a new member. Jennifer. Oh, she would like to be a panelist as well. Just found that one.
That's my message, Blair.
Oh, sorry. Would you like to be a panelist, Jennifer? Sorry. I'm all excited. Another panelist to pick on. Okay, so when you touch the other thing, just raise your hand if you want to be a panelist. And Sarah Lynn.
So I really don't know too much about the brain, but my best guess could be is that it's in contact with everything, memories, emotions, stuff like that. But I may be wrong.
Actually, you're not.
Oh, all right.
It's also part in touch with every piece of your brain that operates consciously, subconsciously. The temporal lobe is on both sides. I forget which side is actually, I think it's the left side, is language, more language-based. And the right side still has the temporal lobe in it, and it has got a lot of subconscious processing that happens, but both sides can do both conscious and subconscious processing, at least in the last piece of research that I took a look at. So, and that was some time ago. So I got to get caught up on that research. But the point being is that all of these different areas of the brain impact language. So this is a critical piece. And this intersection of all of this information, if you're talking to yourself, and we talk to ourselves both out loud sometimes, and internal self-talk, and we talk about ourselves to others, and we talk to other people, again, verbally. all of this formation of language and putting thoughts together start building ideas, and those ideas can be practiced and turned into habits. And as we create those habits, we create habit patterns. Those habit patterns become beliefs, or the beliefs build on habit patterns. Both are true, and they're interchangeable. So sometimes we have beliefs that are not habituated into habits, and other times we have habits that habituate into beliefs. But either way that these are going, what we say about ourselves, if you go, geez, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't do this, is what we believe. And Henry Ford's quote is so totally spot on. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Both are true. Because whatever you're telling yourself inside is the truth to you. You are filling in the blanks the way that you perceive it, and whatever you tell yourself, you believe it to be true, and you will operate on that truth. And that internal dialogue becomes the most powerful influencer in your life over time. And that is staggeringly huge. So, I mean, it's such a big deal. Christy, Jennifer, Rebecca, Tim, if you guys want to jump on, just raise your hands. Always love more, the more the merrier. If you guys can't, then no problem. Just want to offer it. Somebody, Jennifer, you said sounds good. Happy face. Trevor,
no, that was me again, Blair.
Oh, okay.
You keep misrepresenting Jennifer.
I do. I'm terribly sorry about that. So anyway, that's Jennifer. Is Jennifer rocking babies sleep? Anyway, I'll just listen for
No, that was me too, Blair. No.
Okay. You don't have babies. I know that. You can't fool me on that one. So, but anyway, thank you, Jennifer. LOL. It's okay, Blair. It's appreciated. I appreciate the support. Thank you. However, when we're working with people, let's actually back that up. When we're working with ourselves first, being able to figure out how to use language effectively for ourselves between our own ears is going to be one of the most critical pieces for your ability to influence how you perform. So what you tell yourself is true, because you have nobody that creates a piece that isn't working for you. So, I mean, there's no lie, there's no whatever. It's just, it is and is. And that is true is you. And so you're the ultimate truth. When you're trying to make changes to who you are or what you believe yourself to be, and you're trying to shift yourself out of a stuck state into a more successful state, or from a less successful state into a more desirable successful state, then asking yourself questions is going to be, again, the most effective thing to do. Now, again, sort of pop quiz. Jackie, what do you think the questions might be? What kind of questions do you want to ask yourself when you're moving through to a more successful frame of mind? What are some of those questions? What might they sound like? Yes, you do have to turn on your mic. And it's still not on. Okay, there you go.
When I'm moving through to a more successful space?
Yeah, headspace.
Well, I want to be evaluating and getting feedback from other people so I can kind of test out my perception of where I'm going and where I'm coming from.
Yes, absolutely. What else?
How effective is this be? Is this the, almost like, is this step going to take me in a closer direction to where I'm going? Like, will
Very close. It's tight, but it's a little. It's warmer in the direction I'm trying to head into, but it's a little loose.
Mhm.
So, how do we want to operate? What is some of our core drivers here? Katrina, I'm going to pick on you next. So, Katrina, what do you think the core driver needs to be for us to find our way to a more successful state of mind?
passion?
Okay, you're saying passion there, Jackie. Katrina, what do you say?
Yeah, that's enough, Toby.
Our core drivers, like our
Your core driver. What do you think your core drivers? What do you think you should be changing so that you can shift yourself more effectively?
Anything
Change.
ineffective.
yeah, change the way you think, because I struggle with that.
I know, that's how come I'm picking on you. Sorry, but I think it's fair because it's one thing that we talked about before. So,
Yeah.
so getting the practice in, what might you do differently?
Well, now I am evaluating if I have like negative thoughts, for example, because of what happened to me. I've been repeating to myself lately, like I'm very unattractive. And I ask myself, like, is this effective for me? What is this doing to myself if I keep thinking this way?
Okay.
And then I realize like my self-confidence go down.
Yes.
So I'm challenging that statement that I'm telling myself. And then like what I learned from the workshop, Rebecca shared, I think, something. If somebody tells you something that's positive, so that's externally verifiable, you repeat it to yourself. So I started doing that. So if somebody says, oh yeah, that's a nice picture, I said, well, then I look attractive there, then I'm not unattractive. So I started challenging the things by asking if this thought effective for me. Is it not effective? Then why it's not effective? Then I try to evaluate now.
Right. So when you move forward, you're starting to the evaluation, but did anybody catch any of the other language pattern? Like, so she's doing a evaluation. What else is happening?
With what she was looking for with the external.
Exactly.
I thought that's very effective. Going for the external. So I think that process that she was going through was very effective.
I concur, because you are now looking for externally verifiable, non-judgmental, that it means that you can evaluate it, you can get feedback on it, you can get that feedback from other people, and you can verify that, and it's externally verifiable. So, I mean, it's got some rather interesting patterns here. And what we're not doing, what did you stop doing? Katrina, what did you stop doing?
I stopped focusing on that negative thought pattern that I had, and I felt my self-confidence building up again because of the externally verifiable comment that I got, and that's where I start focusing on.
Absolutely. And that's highly effective. Hey, Debbie, glad you could join us. And she's got her hand up. Another victim. No, just kidding. I'm sorry, Debbie. Shouldn't have done that. She's laughed. Oh, no. She's just in transition, I hope.
Yeah, I was adding her.
Okay, cool. So I do that one too many times, and that's it. I'm going to be zapped there. Hey, Debbie, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. So, Katrina, well done, because you're making that externally verifiable, and you're starting to click that in. Now, how quickly does that start helping shift you?
Oh, immediately.
Exactly. It is not even a pause or a hiccup. It is
Yeah.
like right now, the second you start doing this, this starts that process of beginning to shift yourself immediately. And it starts shutting down the other pattern because you've done a replacement behavior. So success language pattern uses replacement behaviors, number one. Number two, it uses immediacy for getting externally verified evidence, immediate, that you can put in there. Or can you go back, and now that you shared that right now in this situation, did it have a residual benefit? Did you feel something as you were sharing that again?
Yes.
And what did you feel?
Well, when I was telling myself those negative thoughts, I felt like heaviness. And then when I started shifting, I just felt like lighter again and happier.
Okay, so when you just a couple minutes ago, when I asked you and I started picking on you, what happened to you in that moment?
I felt a little bit of the sadness when I was like talking about how I was telling myself those negative thoughts, but it shifted once I started talking about the changes.
Exactly. Now, was the intensity, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to weigh out the intensity from before to now on both levels. So can you share?
I just sharing it made me more confident. And then the intensity of the sadness that I felt, it's nothing compared to how I was feeling when I was thinking those thoughts.
See, that's the paradox here, guys. Like, when you discipline yourself and just luck out into this pattern is really, really common. Okay. The pattern being is that when you identify something that's externally verifiable, you bring it out, you do it, you now suppress or not, you replace the behavior, the negative behavior, with a positive view of yourself, and it is externally verifiable. And then what you wind up doing with that piece is, as you repeat it again, it's not as big as it once was, but it's bigger than the negative memory of it. And so the negative memory of it actually is squashed down more, so that we are leaning towards a successful outcome. And so long as you keep on doing the shifting between the negative, recall the negative, and replace it with the positive, so long as you keep that up and you keep looking for the positive, you will find the positive, and the positive becomes naturally stronger. And this was one of those little weird discoveries. I never learned that in psychology. They never taught me that. But when I was doing all the testing back at life skills colleges back in the day, that was the pattern. I didn't have a single person that didn't fall into that pattern. When you recall the negative after the fact and then replace that behavior with a recollection of the positive has a stronger draw, a stronger pull on you than the negative. Unless you go looking for the negative, like actively hunting it down and trying to find it, whatever you look for, you will find. And so if you're looking to beat yourself up, you can find all kinds of ammunition for yourself to beat yourself up. But if you just notice it and cut it off and replace it, the emotion that's stronger is always, I will say almost always, because I don't have I haven't checked it with everybody in the world yet, but out of the over almost 1,500 people that I was working with when I was running the test on this, I had zero variance in this. So it should be a reliable model of 99.9% of the time. This works virtually 100% of the time. So guys, the only reason that it doesn't is when you go hunting for the negative. That's the only thing that you do. So stop looking for the negative and start repeating the positive. Find your positive, go after the positive, do what's effective. And that's the thing that causes you to shift. Pamela, makes sense to you? Good. because in our discussion that we had, in your coaching / profiling session, a little bit of that kind of language pattern crept in, and I thought, okay, here's a good one here that I can sort of map onto a few of the people here that I know that's on the call. Sarah Lynn, that stuff also generally applies to you, and Brent as well. Jackie, I definitely know it applies to you. Sometimes you park the positive. You were parking the positive and looking at the negative. Now you're shifting that again, which I am so thrilled about. By the way, I love your posts and your shift to pick yourself up is like very active now, as opposed to yay you is right. Exactly. And it feels a whole lot better.
Yes.
So I love it. I love that.
I feel alive again.
Yeah, you're acting.
Look out, world.
Yeah, here she comes yet again. Jacqueline Wilson 2.0. Love it. So, and that's the part that starts shifting. Now, it's an integrated process. So we can't just start and say, okay, if I do it once, I'm done for life, sort of thing. It doesn't work that way. If you shut it down, it's not a fix. This is about building habits. And we have this quote in one of my manuals here. Which one is this one? This one happens to be, this one here is Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth. This quote here is in the success language model, and it's from Don House. And we found this quote: successful organizations make habits of things others do not like to do or don't find the time to do. So when you make a habit pattern of things that others don't like to do or don't find the time to do, and how many people do you know don't find the time to find out what works for them? I mean, yes, sorry, Pamela. I know I've got a panel up here, but I was looking at you and your head started nodding immediately because you don't find that time in your day to go after it and go, hold it. I need to find the time in my day to literally go after and reinforce the positive things that I've done in the day. Hence, one of the basic foundational tools that I keep on bringing in here and mentioning to people time after time after time is to bring people in and to have it so that people write down 3 things every day that they've done effectively that day, so that they start building that model. And every night before you go to bed, go out, get a frickin' pad beside your bed, get a pen beside your bed, get a nighttime ritual of putting yourself to bed with 3 positives, 3 things that you did effectively every single day. Okay. And that starts changing you incrementally on an ongoing basis. It works. It just works well, and it works consistently. For some of you here, I know that you're like Kirsten. Kirsten is on here, and hate to send out a hi to Kirsten. And one of the things that I was thinking of when I saw that you're on here, and was the simple thing of, you want to jump on as a panelist? I'd love to have you on. And so she's got her hand raised there, Trevor. So just so you're there. The interesting piece. Oh, there we go. You're the right side around. You're okay now. So Kirsten, I was much better. Yes, thank you. Even better. So the cool thing was, when you're talking to people, and I know that you work at EMP and as a coach there. So one of the key elements there, as you're connecting dots and listening for that, when people are not sounding like they're being internally supportive, it's time to start causing them to take a look at themselves and what behaviors are they saying. And are they asking themselves that they can't, like, are they telling themselves, can I, are they sort of asking, can I do this? Can I really do this? Or are they saying, geez, I don't think I can. I'm not sure if I can. Go ahead, jump in here if you want. Your finger's going towards it. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of dinner and pie. A lot of people, their language changes when they start talking about themselves and what they have to put their effort in. So there's a lot of, we talked about this in one of our coaching calls, is using the word just a lot, like, oh, yeah. I'm just this, or similar words in that fashion that you can kind of listen in on and pick up on and dig a little bit deeper and ask some further questions.
Absolutely true. And then with that language pattern, it's a limiting word so that people don't find where they're being effective. They look at where they're ineffective and they find their fault first. So just those 3 simple behaviors every single night, and just do it as a religion of what worked today, or just sit down, and if you guys meditate or do anything like that for a wrap up during the day, just take some time, meditate on what's worked for you today. Just contemplate, reflect, getting reflection time in on what worked for you today. What did you do that's effective? And how might you bridge that in to tomorrow? Like for me, simple thing. Yesterday, I watched a Frank Kern video, and he talked about how simple it was to multiply out your videos that you do for Facebook Lives. And you can take the Facebook Live videos and then post them on LinkedIn. And so long as they're under 10 minutes. So I was able to do that as well and just turn that in there into 4 LinkedIn posts today, because I did 4 under 10-minute posts in Facebook today. So all of a sudden that's there and it can be done. And we're, again, incrementally looking at being able to do this. And then Trevor gave me some feedback and said, okay, well, now that you've done this, let's take a look at building hooks so that we can get a hookier title in there so that people will probably watch it more. And absolutely, and I definitely know that how-to is a hook. So I put how-to in a few of the titles, 2 out of the 4. So we'll see, we'll see. So not really great at this yet, but it's incremental movement. And that's where I take a look at this. It's incremental movement. And you got to keep on looking. I forget what that song was, but it's an old one. And the line in it is accentuate the positive. So that's what we need to do. We need to accentuate our positives, the things that we do throughout the day, and keep on building on that so that we can find those strengths in ourselves, build them into habits, and have wins on an ongoing basis. So that is critical. Okay. Prefrontal cortex. Hey, Colin, thanks for joining us today. Prefrontal cortex is that area of the brain here. Actually, I'll just share my screen one more time here and do this and share that picture and move that off to the side. There we go. The prefrontal cortex in this area here is the executive center. And it's where we do a lot of planning and judgment and editing of our emotion, because our emotion comes from deep inside in this general area here and that area there. And what it winds up being is your amygdala fires off and sends emotions out. We also know that emotions are in every part of the brain, but there's different styles of emotions. And one of the things that I spent a little bit of time doing with some people today was working on the what emotions, the what-based emotions, and why-based emotions. And why-based emotions tend to create stories about what happened. Well, stories about why things happened, why this was going on, why this was the way that it was, why things didn't work. And it tends to be negative. But if you just name and label the emotion and you talk about the emotion and express the emotion in words by naming and labeling it, that's a very, very different experience than reliving it, because you're remembering it versus reliving. And that's a huge, huge difference. And again, just back to the temporal area, language, heard or spoken. So when you're listening to somebody, your temporal lobe is the area of the brain that's pulling in all of that content. And it depends on what you're talking to. And because it's touching every other aspect of your brain, it has such strong influence like no other area of your brain at all. So that's the key piece there going forward. So anyway, questions, comments. How's this been? What's working for you? What's not working for you? How might I be able to be of greater assistance for you this evening? Okay. Kirsten, any questions?
Not at this time that I can think of.
Okay, cool.
I'll ask you one, Blair, if I can.
Yeah, please jump. You were my next pick on. So
yeah, I guess what really worked for me in the past is that I asked you many times, I think, what do we need to do when we're surrounded by negativity in the workplace, where we've been taught it in school, the focus on what we got wrong in our exam or test suffice all of what we did well. And I think that, by doing that, we go to our emotions a lot, which is probably more often than we should. And I guess my question is, how might we get ourselves out of that? I mean, I probably know what that is, but it would come better from you, I think.
Okay. So one of the things that I do is most people will be responding with that structure as a why. Why are you doing that? Why didn't you do that? And responding with that. And one of the things, I've got a few different responses to this that we'll explore, but one of the questions that I would really, I would like to understand discipline better. Okay, that was from Pamela. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll just need clarification on that. But the question here is, when I'm surrounded by negativity, I ask people, because most people are just habituated to presenting the negativity. So one of the things that I want to find out is, what is their intention? So is it your intention to be negative here, or is your intention to find clarity? And so I immediately seek that level of understanding, because everybody wants to be understood. Everybody wants to be understood. And the rationale, what's triggering that negativity, a little bit of hiccups here. Anyway, hope they go away. Okay, good. Thank God. Anyway, the thing that I wind up is I seek understanding. When somebody is being negative, they want to be understood. And usually what's happening is they're having a difficult time in their life as well, and nobody's really listening to them. So that's one of the first things that I do to shift people, is to go after the understanding of where they're coming from. Because their need to be negative is caused by some either habit pattern or some externally verifiable situation, like some factor in their life that they're going through in this moment. And that is significant. If I'm more or less okay, and I'm not immediately triggered by that, then I seek understanding. If I'm immediately triggered, then I might be the more wounded party here. And what I want to do is, I don't want to add fuel to the fire. So sometimes it's take myself out of the picture, give myself a personal timeout, as it were, just remove myself from that environment. and ask myself, what triggered this? What's happening? Where did this come from? Not why. Notice not one of those questions was why based. Like, what's happening? I want to evaluate this. I want to look at the facts as best I can. I want to move myself to look at the circumstances of this, not the emotion of it full on. So that's a huge piece of that puzzle. So we want to shift away from blame and stay away from the blame game. And we want to get into evaluating information and circumstances that we can take a look at and go, what might I be able to change here? What might I be able to do differently? And is there somebody else? Like if I'm triggered by somebody else, I ask myself when I'm on my A game, this is a tough one to do when I'm hurting, but if I'm on my A game, I can actually ask the question, are they hurting more than I am? And usually the case is it's quite possible. And at least I can get curious enough to find out. So curiosity and understanding are the two key drivers that I use to help myself avoid the situations or step outside of the situations. Even though I can't leave the situation, I can mentally sort of just move around it. Sort of it's a ninja redirect where I'm directing the negative energy around me without having it hit me, as it were. Let the energy sort of pass by and take a look at it that way. How does that work for you, Colin?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Pamela, you have a question. I would like to understand discipline better. What do you mean by discipline?
For myself to take the actions that I know I need to take on a more consistent basis, like be more disciplined with the things that I need to do. I'm not sure about just before that, like how do I don't know if I can explain it properly, or maybe you understand what I'm saying.
I think I got it now.
Okay.
And I'm going to, for other people that have gone after discipline in the way that you've gone after it, there are few people that can master discipline the way that you're describing it. What you wind up doing, though, is the people who master discipline create a reward, a positive reward, a win in their life for being disciplined. So it's when you are doing something that you want to do, you can call it discipline, but you can also refer to it as self-understanding. So what are the things that you know you need to do that you currently aren't doing, and what can you do to give yourself the reward for doing things effectively?
To me, that seems really simple. And I don't know why I've never felt that a reward was a good idea or allowed, or I don't know where the
no. The word allowed, you have no idea. Like, sorry for jumping on that one.
No, please.
Allow is something that people that talk about this one is, well, I'm not allowed to do that, or I didn't think I was allowed to do it that way, or it's not the normal way. It sounds like you're cheating, Blair. You're just cheating. Exactly. I've been accused of that to my face. This is a cheat. Well, yeah, it is, but this is your life. It's not a cheat because it is your life. You get to set it up so you win, not so you lose. So you win.
Oh, that's so freeing. Like it makes me giddy inside, right? Like it's like really, I can really go and, oh, okay. See, I thought, no, that's cheating.
You know what? Okay.
This should somehow be more painful or more hard work or
no, hell no. Like, I mean, that's crazy. That's the old paradigms. I mean, I don't believe in that at all. I mean, no pain, no gain. Bullshit. Like no pain, lots of gain. That's where I'm at because I take lots and lots of gain. No pain, lots of gain. Okay.
So when I was watching the course, right, and Mike Dillard, and obviously that gentleman has a tremendous amount of discipline to do what he's been able to do. And you look at someone like that, and I go, okay, what's the difference between him and me? discipline, because I don't think he's any smarter. I can get
Nope.
smart, right? I can study whatever.
He doesn't have that much discipline. What he does have was a reward system where he actually rewarded himself.
Stop it. It can't be that easy. You know what I mean?
When he lost it, and he shares this on publicly. So I mean, I know Micah was down in Austin. I dropped in. He's got some very serious health problems. He hasn't been able to sleep for almost a year or more.
Oh.
And it's not insomnia. I mean, it's a brain injury, and they've documented it now. And he finally found a neurologist who was able to help him and prescribed the appropriate chemical cocktail. So he's finally starting to get some sleep. But the poor man had not slept in over 3 months, literally 3 months of no sleep when I saw him back when I was back in, it was either August or September of last year, and no sleep, zero. And that's like not healthy. He's just out of that now, just, a few weeks out of that, and he's looking a whole lot better. But the point being is he's made some mistakes, but he admits those mistakes and moves on. But one of the things that he always did is, I mean, the guy has had a bunch of high-end sports cars. So when he hit targets, he would reward himself. And how many times have you heard, people who hit financial goals go out and buy themselves a nice toy? Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon. But people tend to go, well, he deserves that. I don't, but he deserves that. He worked really hard for that. Well, yeah, he did work really hard, sort of, but not that much harder than what you work. He still has 24 hours in it. Well, he really does have 24 hours a day to work now, but unlike anybody else. Yeah, Colin.
When Melissa worked with me way back, we always used to figure out different ways to reward ourselves because there was so many. And we always either got a chocolate or a coffee or whatever it may be when we had a success. And it just made it more memorable. We wanted to duplicate what worked, suffice what didn't. So it's another way of reminding us that that's what we wanted to do more of.
Absolutely. And it is that simple. Because we treat ourselves well, we have the habit of treating ours. When we gain that habit of treating ourselves well, we then do not mind sacrificing. It is not as painful as when we don't treat ourselves well and we're torturing ourselves with forcing ourselves to go through it. And so we don't have this whole methodology of, it's almost a person has to sacrifice because it's difficult. And the belief model generally is, if I don't work really hard, I won't be able to have my wins. And so therefore I have to work really hard in order to win. And when you wind up working not so hard and having a really big win, then somehow it's not right. You cheated the system and you feel like, you're a fraud somehow, and that it's not okay for you to win that easily.
Right.
But how do you think people get to become billionaires? Not just millionaires, but billionaires. Mm-hmm. Are they guilt-ridden with cheating the system, or have they figured out value? And like I said, when I was doing my coaching / profiling session with you, Pamela, it was really coming out and figuring out value. Like your whole value-based thinking was time wage, not value. And even though you're figured out certain elements of it as value, the key piece for you is time wage.
I grew up on a farm. There was a real direct connection between the work and the
Absolutely. I totally get it. And that is true for that time wage, agrarian mindset, that agricultural mindset, which is very similar to like they could take workers off the farm and turn them into factory workers, because that model back in the day for creating an environment where in the Industrial Revolution, where they were taking people off the farm and bringing them into factories, they were good workers because they knew how to work. So you could pay them a little because farmers never made a lot. Okay. And yeah, it's like what happened?
I know I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
Like it's just viscerally, I'm like, oh my God, as soon as you said, yeah, we could pay them a little, they'll work hard. Oh, is my hand up there, right? Like that's hard.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of being.
Yes. There's a lot of pride in that whole model. Isn't there? The whole work ethic thing. And you can wind up setting, like, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but I do know in about 2010, 2012, 2014, the average, and I know it's up higher than this, but in the US economy, it was on a daily basis, it's either 64 billion or 64 trillion dollars gets exchanged daily.
Yeah.
Okay. And I forget which, and either one is huge.
Yeah.
And it might be trillion.
Okay.
Dollars per day. Okay. And even if it's billion, let's just call it billion, because I know it's probably more than $64 billion a day gets exchanged daily. But if you think you're part of this economy, and it's not a zero-sum game. Like, you went out there and you built a business, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that is a consulting service for ClickFunnels. Right. So you do ClickFunnels consulting. Cool. So what happened is, before you went out there and built your business, your value was, I'm just going to make up numbers here. Okay. So your value, you made, $50,000 a year. So the government took a look at that, and if you're in the United States, it's the M1 money supply, and that's the most critical. That's the easiest one to measure and get. But the M1 money supply would be there, and they'd figure out how much money does the government have to put into the economy so that the economy can work, and they calculate that out monthly. So they look at all of the people like yourself that is now going out there, and you went from a $50,000 a year salary to something that's more like, that a month, let's say, so let's call it $500,000 a year. But you went 100 times more than what you did the year before. Well, they have to actually add that in to the money supply, and they do. They calculate this stuff out. And they add that into the money supply. And the interesting fact is that you created value.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't create time, but you created value, because you're charging for that, and somebody is actually paying you for that, your services. Right. But that is a value add to the economy. And that value proposition means that somebody else can take your work, build their funnel, and make money off the work that you did, where they now, because they add their value to that for their customer. So that now leverages it yet again. So every one of these turns in the economy is there, and you're creating a little diverter to say, okay, I just want my piece of the pie, as it were, or my piece of the $64 billion a day. I want my little funnel coming over to me. It's not about ripping people off. It's about getting a fair share for the value that you get. Now, if you go work for somebody else, they've got the diverter, but you wind up trading time for money. And if they can make that trade for that diverter worth more than the time for money, they have profit. And in a lot of cases, a smart business person goes, okay, I can get 10 people working for me, and I can, make that 100 times more valuable than what those 10 people are. So if I'm paying $10, I can make it 10x that. Let's just go. So each of those people is pulling in $100 of profit times 10, which means there's $1,000, but it only costs them 10 times 10 is 10 plus 10. Sorry, that's $100, but yet they make $1,000. So the whole thing here is leverage. That's leverage. Okay. And if you create an appropriate business model, you can do that many, many, many times.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. And if you don't create an effective business model, you're working your butt off and filling in all the blanks because A, you may not be hiring properly, and B, you may not be feeling like you deserve it. So you're creating a self-sabotaging system that keeps you in a stuck state because you never felt like you really deserved it in the first place. And there are so many people out there who are starting out in business who haven't figured this stuff out first. And they haven't figured out, how do I know that I can deserve this? Because I've been told money is bad. Money is the root of all evil. Money is something that rich people get because they're ripping other people off. Well, none of that's true. Okay, money is out there. It's just a tool. It's nothing more than a simple tool. And, that's it. It's just a tool that facilitates transfer of energy. Actually, it represents work and energy, that's there. So when we get that, we then this whole thing that I'm working on tonight is what we tell ourselves. That story between our ears is how we will behave, and that ability to shift that story is the critical piece between people that are successful and people that are not so successful. So that's the difference. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
What are you getting? Because we didn't have time to go into this, and I'm sort of doing a little bit of a deeper dive on this with you for this one.
Two big pieces. The first is that it's okay to reward myself, which is huge. And the second is the value piece. And my question in my head was, okay, I've been able to up the language and feel much better about myself and done a lot of work. I think that's probably, and maybe I'm wrong, and never kind of always the next level, next iteration of myself.
Okay, 2 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that might be ineffective. Because that right, wrong, good, bad is all judgmental language. So you're tripping yourself up with judgmental language. So if you want to go back in there and instead of questioning yourself, well, maybe that's wrong, you're just saying, okay, brain, judge yourself. Maybe you are wrong. And then you've got this habit of judging yourself and going, see, I knew it. The first mistake, I knew it. I was wrong. I knew I couldn't do this. I knew I didn't really deserve to do this. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's how come the mind models are used in a stacking model. We got to stack these. And the critical piece here is to stack, okay, when I'm looking at this, I might not be doing it as effectively as I can. But what is it that I'm now doing it? Am I wrong or am I ineffective? And is it me that's ineffective, or is it the behavior that I'm choosing is ineffective? How do you say this? How do you talk to yourself? That's not a rhetorical question, Pamela.
No.
Sorry, I'm seeing smoke coming out of your ears. So.
I have grown and improved on that tremendously. And
yes, you have.
I was listening to somebody earlier, and I can't remember who it was, about that. I, since just the last couple of days, been involved with this work and understanding just the judgment versus evaluation piece. I didn't have the language for that. I didn't know there was a difference. Like, I just didn't have the ability to even like process that now that I'm
discern it. Like you didn't discern the difference.
I couldn't. I it wasn't even, I can't even voice it because the language was just kind of not there. So now that I see that, I'm more and more aware of the judgment and finding some self-empathy for myself through this process of knowing this now. Very cool. More aware of, okay, that slipped into, that wasn't effective, right? Like, but
no, just notice what's going on here. Is that nervous laughter or is that a laughter for a release? It sounded like a release to me. Not nervous laughter, but a release. Like I finally have a way. My God, I've been struggling with this for decades and now I've got a way to deal with it.
It really does, Blair. I feel like I got a hold of something that's been skirting around, like, you know, like a ghost or something. I was like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. The ghost of Christmas past. The haunting.
Yeah, well, I've had this my whole life. Like, there's gotta be. What is this thing? Like,
okay, and what do you have now? Because notice how it's like I've got this and there's all this stuff. Like that's you going back to the old way of thinking about it. So what's the new way of thinking about it? What can you do to let that ghost go?
What can I do to let?
No, what might you do?
Right.
Ask, what might I do?
What might I do to let that ghost go?
Well, just what might you do differently? Because you don't even have to give it a name. You don't have to even call it a ghost. Just what might you do differently?
I think for me, I think it's looking forward instead of looking back at what I could have, should have, would have done.
Absolutely. So what do you want to look on going forward?
I've got so many dreams and goals for myself and my business.
And that's one of that is, I'm working with another client. I have been for a long time, but his problem is always having so many things out in front of him.
Yeah.
And he's going at it like 10,000 miles with his, 10,000 miles an hour with his hair on fire.
Yeah.
And he's knocking down these things. And finally, just this year, we're starting to slow him down. And he's starting to get traction. And the weird thing is, the simpler he makes it, the slower he does it, the more he gets accomplished and the more money he makes consistently.
Keep coming back. I'll be back here next week.
I'll be here. Same time, same station. I'm here. Yeah. Unless I'm dead. I'm here.
No, goodness, no.
Well, that's no, and or I'm teaching because in March, no, I won't be because March 28th. That's not a Tuesday. So I won't have any of these interrupted by my Mind Model Coach training. So I'll be here right through Mind Model Coach training. So for those of you that are here joining me, then we'll be here. But, for the other people, Mind Model Coach training will not interfere with the Blair Dunkley experience.
Good.
Okay. So it's just practicing this. And you've got the videos now. You can go back and replay them and re-listen to them again. And I have people that have gone through this stuff many, many times. In fact, Jacqueline Wilson, the person that is on here but not in the room right now, has when I was doing operant effectual counseling years ago, like decades ago, back in the day, like 25 years ago, she came out to operant effectual counseling. She passed it the first time. She was a OEC counselor. She's coming back in to take Mind Model Coach training. She attended 14 times, and got new stuff. About the 12th times I said, Jackie, how come you keep on coming back? Like, I don't mind. I like her in the group. She was good. She was fun. She was energetic. She would sit back and stay quiet, but then add in, Colin, a former student of mine, former person that we were training up to be in the business end, be a consultant and work for us in that area. So, I mean, and he sits back quietly and he then feeds me a line that I know he can answer himself. But I said, can I ask you a question? What he does is he feeds me a question because he can do that. I mean, it's like a perfect setup. You can't get better than that. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it. But I mean, that's the whole thing. It works because you hear things deeper. And it's got to start with yourself. And if it doesn't start with yourself, it doesn't begin at all. Colin, go for it.
You know what, Blair? I can so relate to Pamela, but it's sort of in a different way. When I came back from thinking that I knew most everything after finishing all of the training with you guys, I came back. My outcomes were tremendous. I did tremendously business-wise, but I forgot about the things that were most important to me, and that was my family and my relationship. Because I was okay with putting it aside, but I forgot to ask my wife and my daughter that, you know, are we doing enough together as a family? So I had all these tremendous successes, but I forgot to look at the very thing that should have been most important to me in that moment was that, hey, I'm back home and I'm with my family again. So I rewarded myself lots for business stuff, but I forgot about involving my wife and my daughter and all of that and letting them know what I was rewarding myself for.
Yeah.
And I felt that I was distancing myself from my family. And then I realized that, hey, this is what's most important to me. I need to get back to, you know, not just focusing on the outcomes business-wise, but I need to start looking at my relationships, not just business relationships, but real relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I called you up and you gave me hell and kicked me in the butt, and I started focusing on that a little more.
And I reminded you of what I had done too. You know, like, you know, Colin, you went off in that direction that I did for a year. And I think, you know, if you don't mind, I'll build on your story and shift it slightly. You know, for me, it's about, I mean, people talk about work-life balance, and some experts out there say you can't have it, and other people say you can and whatnot. I don't really care what other people say. I care what it feels like for me, and is it effective for me? And I went off and, you know, when I started this whole venture, this whole adventure, was to go off there and apply the stuff to myself. And when I started applying it to me after Catherine was born, that year, like I took the year off 6 months before Catherine was born, 6 months after. Thank God I did that because, you know, Melissa had a very difficult delivery with Catherine, and I'm glad I was there, especially for the first 3 months. Then what I wound up doing was getting involved and bugging the hell out of Melissa, actually, was what it comes down to. And she said, let's start changing this around. Let's get things working. So get you back out there and going to work. So I redesigned my life based on what I wanted. And so that next year, I did 147,000. The prior year at Life Skills Colleges, I made 42,000. That's like 25 plus years ago. Anyway, bottom line was, couple years later, I'm working a lot more, and I get engaged with everything. And Melissa's now pregnant with Victoria, has Victoria. And that year that Victoria, like during Victoria's first year, I'd gotten it so that I was working really hard. I was making a lot more money. But, you know, when I did the first year and made 147,000, I did that in 17 weeks. Well, I like work. Then I got myself so I'm working. So I was away from home, or I was only at home between February 1st and November 30th. Between those 10 months of the year, I was only home for 45 days for the entire year. And I was on the road nonstop. When I came back at the end of November, it was like I was a stranger in my own home. This wasn't the life I wanted. So we rejigged it again. Yeah, we were making good money, but I was out there working my tail off and doing some stuff that I enjoyed doing, but it wasn't, you're right, Colin, like it wasn't the thing that I wanted. So I was able to change it because I rejigged my life one more time and got the balance that I wanted and built a part-time work for myself that gave me the kind of income that I wanted. And I wanted to have something that would give me, you know, between about on average, so like 350 to 600,000 and do that part-time. And it's you build out the business model to make that happen. So you've got time with the family and time for work, and things are there, and it's totally possible, you know. And I did that through mind models, and it worked great. I really enjoy it. I still enjoy it, but I didn't go out there and promote all this stuff like I'm doing right now because I wanted to watch my kids grow up. I hated that year that Victoria did, like walked and everything on her own, and I wasn't there. So I missed that with her. And so I regret that. But that's the last time I regretted anything in the family. So everything changed after that moment. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So, and I see a few yawns out there, and I know it's been a long day for people, but I want to get to Debbie. You asked a question here about homeschooling and whatnot, and I wanted to address that before we go. So if you want to bring that up, I'd love to work through with that.
Thank you. Yeah. So.
Oh, sorry. Just 1 second before.
Yeah.
Pamela, does that make sense to you? What we went through?
I do have a couple more questions, but I'll ruminate. I'll figure, and then I'll come back with them. Yeah.
Okay, great. And you can always, you know how to get a hold of me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear what Debbie has to say as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Debbie, go for it.
Yeah, it's just been. It's funny. I was just talking to my husband about this earlier, and over the weekend we worked with the boys on some things because it's a big issue. So trying to do the business and the homeschool, it overlaps a little bit where I've found the time to do it. Which, so I've given my older 3 boys are the only ones that are in school right now. But so I've given the responsibility as much as I can to them. So we were talking this weekend, and we had them evaluate their efforts that have been, their efforts in their schoolwork, their efforts with getting started at the time that I've set for them. And so we went through that evaluation process, talked about how it's not my responsibility for you to get started on time. That's something I need you to take on. And unless, like yesterday, I had to be right on him again. I'm like, I can't be right on you. Somehow I need to teach them the discipline for, and they're young, but somehow I need to teach them the discipline for getting started on time. And so this reward thing makes sense, but we've also, my husband and I have tried different reward systems unsuccessfully in the past. Not necessarily because the reward systems wouldn't work, but because we didn't work them. Like I don't know, it didn't work overall for everything anyway. So I'm not sure what rewards are appropriate at what age and how close are, because I do know that with kids, the rewards have to be a little bit sooner depending on their age. The younger they are, the rewards need to be a little bit closer so that they can feel that sense of accomplishment and that reward. Because if it's too long, for a 7-year-old, if a week may be forever, and an 11-year-old, 2 weeks might be more appropriate, So anyway.
So just in terms of kids' rewards, upon completion of a task, they've got to be able to know that they're going to be getting a reward so that they get rewarded by that completion. So they show up on time. What do they get for showing up on time? what
Okay.
or not, like what's the consequence. So I don't fully believe in just rewards, but there's got to be some level of consequence there too. But the consequence can't be big either. Like it can be a reduction in the future reward, like a one-off reduction, type of thing. But asking them what they want for their reward and what they want for their what's reasonable for them if they don't show up on time actually works really well.
Okay.
So I leave the rewarding, like them coming up with it. Obviously, not 100% all subject to parental approval, obviously. But I mean, Catherine, at the age of 6, actually at the age of 5, she had a severe learning disability. Well, not severe, but a significant learning disability, and she wasn't reading. And so what we wound up doing was, I think it was grade 1 or grade 2, no, grade 2 or grade 3. Anyway, at some point there, Melissa came up with an idea, and we sat down with Catherine and just asked her, what does she want? Well, she wants to be able to go out and get a book, like to read. We sort of limited it. Everything else she couldn't have except for she could get a new book and go to Chapters and buy it. And then that new book changed to she'd get a credit on a Chapters card to go out and buy a book she wanted. And every time she read a book, she'd get $25. That was the deal. But it had to go towards books that she could read. So it was an educational bonus, as it were. She just about bankrupted Melissa in the process because she started reading so much, but it really worked because by the time she got to grade 6, she scored like with a learning disability and all in science, she's got 100% on the provincial exam, which only one other child in the entire school, the local genius, got 100%, and so did Catherine. So she knew we all knew she was smart. And, that absolutely proved it. But reading was the thing that we needed to get through. So, and that's a positive reinforcement. And it's fun. And she still loves reading today. So it was a very effective tool. But that was something that she wanted to do. So positive reinforcements that you don't want to do are not positive reinforcements. They're either neutral or even sometimes negative. So, yeah, just saying. Okay.
So the next question is then, because I think our lack is in keeping track. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just not sure how to keep track. I mean,
so every day, the thing for getting people started on something, it's more effective if you can actually operate as a group and get them started with them, and then have them do some work on their own, read the stuff, answer the questions, do what they need to do in a self-learning system. Then after they do that, then they come back in and you close them down at the end of the day so that there's a start and a finish every single day.
Oh, okay.
And that it gets to a time, because the time basis for this stuff is sort of like, how come we have an 8-hour workday or go to school for 6 or 7 hours a day? It's because the system gets us into a habit, and that habit becomes our pattern, and it's easy for us to habituate to that in in a week or two. We're back into a habit pattern. And if we do that for ourselves in business as well, we habituate very, very quickly because we're used to timing patterns. When you're self-employed, you don't have a pattern. So if you actually shift yourself, and one of the things EMP is really good about is teaching about time blocking. And when people start time blocking, they tend to have more successes. because they've laid out the time. Now, time blocking works even more effectively if you start at a similar time and end at a similar time every single day. And, here Pamela she was fretting that I wasn't going to be here next week for whatever reason. Like, don't leave me, I want you here at a certain time every day or every week. And I mean, that's done intentionally. I have 38 or 40 weeks now that I've been showing up here Tuesday night, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 8 p.m. Central. And I'm still laughing at myself for adding 8 p.m. Central because I just feel guilty for leaving out Central because I've covered the rest of it. And I do. I got to say, I feel sorry for the Central people. And I got to say Central. So I do. It's
awesome.
Yeah. Funny, but true. So anyway, so I just do it. And by me just saying, this is a have to, this is me being obligated to you guys, to the people that are showing up week in, week out. It's generally the same faces. It's the people that are making the most amount of shifts and change. It's great. It's great. And, if you can't make it, I'll be here as best I can, or I will announce that I can't make it, so that I build a relationship, a know, like, and trust me. You like me, you know me, but you trust me, because that is what you have to do. You know what? In the whole thing, that like language of success, you have to know, like, and trust yourself. And you're not quite, Debbie, you're not quite structuring it so in a way that has got the identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable pattern to it. Okay. It's too random. Okay. So that you can't trust it. So you don't trust yourself. So your kids don't trust it. So if you're getting up at weird hours, that doesn't work. You have to set your own schedule, and you have to hold yourself to a schedule. And you have to hold your kids to that schedule. And that's where I would just do it. Like, just hold yourself to the schedule and do it regardless of whether you're tired or having a great day or not. And work through it, because it's like a job. You don't show up, like, if you were at a regular school and you didn't show up 15 minutes after 9, every student is every teacher is reported to the office who's tardy, and truant, as I said. And in the old days, there would be a truant officer. So before they had phones, there would be somebody going around to everybody's home, seeing how come that child is not in school. And there are truant officers, literally a job description back in the day, like 100 years ago. Now it's a telephone. Now it's actually text messaging as well. So the truant officer is the secretary of the school who will phone up in some schools, like both my daughter's schools, well, all three of them in elementary, junior high, and high school. They would phone. If they did not get a message in for an excused absent, they phone every day. Not some days and not other days, but every time either one of our daughters missed school, we'd get a phone call. That's just the commitment that the school had to the parents, and they expected the parents to be active participants. Okay? So that model works, and it creates habits. And these are success patterns that we want to build in. We want to build in predictable habit patterns so that people know, your kids know, by doing something similar every single day, they can get predictable results.
Okay. And I also have a question, but I can
sure, fire one more here.
Well, I was gonna say I can email you if you need to get off, or if everybody
I'm good. I'll let you know. I'm pretty good about letting people know my limits.
Well, just with the having them get a reward for finishing each thing, that makes sense to me.
It doesn't. You know what? You don't reward finishing each thing. You rewards for a group of things that they work towards. not a reward for everything.
Oh, okay. I thought that's
So
what.
rewards can't be like, they can get a hug for each thing. I don't care about those ones, but the more tangible, the more physical, the more monetary ones I try and avoid. I would rather give them praise, or I'd rather give them a competition and say, okay, who's here on time? You know, bed made, teeth brushed, you know, fully dressed, and in school every morning for a week. And you get a gold star. You do that for a month. Now you get rewarded. Now, where would you like to go for a special treat? What would you like to do for a special treat? You get to pick your treat.
Okay. See, and those are the reward systems that we've tried that my husband hates because we're not great at doing them. And where's the paper? I don't know. Where's the stars? Who knows? Who got what stars? Like, it's just a mess.
Again, it's about posting it in a public spot. It's about keeping it in the same place. It's not about moving things around. And it's about putting things on the wall, stuck to the wall, so that it doesn't move, it doesn't walk.
Huh.
Okay? It's about creating a system that's identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. You're not spending the time to get a reward system that is identified clearly as a reward. You don't want to reward every small behavior, because then you're training your kids to get rewards for everything. And if I don't do it, then...
And that was where my hesitation was, like, where's that line? Because I don't want it to be like, well, I won't, what do I get now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Random rewards are more effective than consistent rewards, by the way. Okay? Just tested over and over and over again in psychology. Random rewards are way more effective than consistent rewards. Okay? And it actually works really good for yourself too. You know, like, yeah, go ahead, Colin.
I have a 5-year-old. I went through exactly the same thing. Every single day after school, we sit her down. She has to do her homework. Whether she has it or not, we'll make something up. We reward her often, but if she dilly-dallies or doesn't do what she's supposed to do, it's what kids do, we wouldn't call it a consequence, but we knew what she liked. She had, like, her iPad time, certain dolls she liked to play with every day, and that changes every week because kids love different things.
Yeah.
You would say, okay, we're going to take that away from you if you don't focus, and let's get it done. Because the quicker you focus and the quicker you look at getting your work done properly, then what we'll do is we will reward you. And asking was by far the most important way to find that out, because we asked her what she wanted. Oh my gosh, she'd have a list of 50 things that she wanted. But I would chunk it down to what's most important to her, and we'd reward her every Friday. It wasn't a big thing because we weren't allowed to spend anything. She wasn't allowed to have anything expensive, but it had to be something that she wanted, that, you know, was affordable and doable. And right now she's not even in grade 1, and she's reading at a grade 3 level. And that's because she enjoys that time. She looks forward to it. She literally reminds us that it's time to study. It's time for me to do my homework, Dad or Mom. Yeah. And it all started from asking what she wanted and holding her accountable to it. And the consequence was what we already knew she liked. So it was easy. We didn't call a consequence, though. We just said that, look, we'll take that away from you if need be. And then she was right on her game.
And I also agree. Love consequences guilt-free if they're set consequences, and that's it just is. It's not like you're bad. It's like there's a consequence. You don't get to play with that. Not, yeah, it's right. It's so what? Like, it's not a bad girl. We have to punish you now. That's the whole. No, it's just, well, when you do things effectively, this is what you get. When you do things ineffectively, well, this is also what you get. It just is. And we do a whole lot of what is. And as our girls got older and started dating, I would talk to them about practice dates. Like, every date is a practice date until our practice relationship until you get married. That's the way it works. Because if you think about it, that's how it is. You're just practicing to get it right. And some people practice their entire lives and they never stop practicing. Okay. But hey, that's okay. They don't want to get married. That's fine. Totally cool. They love practicing, but they don't want to have one consistent one. And that's fine. No judgment. But it doesn't have to be a judgment. It can just be, this is my choice. This is my lifestyle choice. And other people, no, I'm practicing until I find the right person. And it's pretty guilt-free for practicing and figuring out how to be in a relationship as well. And being a parent, well, I'm parenting. I'm attempting to do the best that I can every single time. I may not do it perfectly, but you know what? I'm practicing on my parenting skills. That's what I'm doing. And I'm improving and I'm monitoring. I'm practicing being an entrepreneur until I die, actually, because it's always practice. And then when you look at this practice stuff, it just works more effectively because, you know, you're really working at improving all the time. And it's practice. And you don't have to beat the crap out of yourself because you blow something, because this is a practice. Like, yeah, you lose a customer, fine. But it's practice. Next time I will improve on it. You're practicing having a great life until you die, you know, because it's a practice. It's like a doctor's, you know, practice. Sports people practice. People don't think about practicing life, but you are. So let's turn it, you're living your life, but, and you can have reasonable do-overs. So anyway, just a thought.
That's what I want to change. Like I think I'm great at the guilt consequences, and I think I'm really good at the consequence and not the reward as much. Cool.
So make it random, make it something they want. You know, Colin has exactly the right idea as far as I'm concerned. It's highly effective. It's identifiable. It's repeatable. It's duplicatable. It comes from them, so it's got more emotional attachment than anything he or I or anybody else can come up with, because they came up with it. It's their attachment to it. They get it or they don't get it. So those are the pain and the pleasure piece. And they move.
Most of them things that, like, you know, Colin mentioned that his rewards for his daughter are things you go to the store and buy. Like, I'm like, well, we've got 3 little boys. I could break the bank really fast.
No budget, no things like that. I go, no, it doesn't break the bank because
dollar store stuff.
It's dollar store. That's right, only in a dollar store.
Yeah, we'd bring her to the dollar store and let her pick from the dollar store section. That was it. She'd get excited about it because kids are kids. Yeah. You know, we think they want more and they want things that are expensive. No way. We just said, nope, that's what you can pick from. And she got excited about it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because if it's a list they're creating of stuff that they want, like $5 limit or...
Yeah, exactly. Literally, the max is a $5 limit. Like, our thing was books were not cheap. So it had to be $25. You know, because the books that Catherine needed to buy and read were in that $25 range.
Yeah, I'd love to reward with buying books because I'm terrible at the library.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, that was us. And like, we tried the library card. That didn't fly because it's too disorganized and the sections weren't anyway, it wasn't working for us because we tried it as well. But Catherine lit up with chapters. It was a great place for her to come. It worked. The bookstore was there, like a Barnes and Noble, whatever. She loved because there was a kids section where she could sit down and take her book and read it and then go off to the cash register and be a big girl and buy it with her own card, because it was a gift card that she had, but it was like a credit card. So that was the whole thing. Okay, cool.
Or what you do is not worry about it and get to making enough money to where you can pay all your bills with 10% of what you make. Like what Blair always said, that's when you're successful.
Yeah.
And I've done that a few years ago. So it doesn't have to be the dollar store, but I choose the dollar store because my my daughter will break the bank if I bring her somewhere. She wants that, and that. Yeah.
Exactly. Totally.
You know?
Anyway, we got to wrap up here. So, but Sorry, go ahead, Debbie.
I just said I appreciate you taking the time. It's been like a don't know what to do kind of situation.
Totally hear you. So, what worked for you today? So, Debbie, you started there. So, what worked?
Definitely getting the idea of start together, end together. Now I have different levels. Like the kindergarten or the first grader will be done a little sooner than my sixth grader.
Yeah.
But
that's normal.
There's some way I can figure that out.
Yeah.
But having that start time together, like this is starting, because I have the time starting, but it's like, oh, I'm still brushing my teeth. Like, no, like it's 9 o'clock. You're supposed to be starting. This is not working. And then, then we're all over the place. It's just been crazy.
So you got to back this up to wake up time. So not start time, but to wake up time.
Okay.
So everybody's got to get on a schedule.
Wake up time.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
You got to push it all the way back. And if wake up times don't work, then it means bedtimes probably aren't being structured well enough.
Okay.
And that's what we found. So, okay.
Awesome. Yeah, but getting that whole idea of learning the process, because they absolutely do not trust the process at all. Like one of my kids almost daily says, "Are we doing school today? Or can I change this to this?" And I'm like, yeah, we're doing school today. Like, where's that coming from?
Well, first of all, don't go, yeah. Go, yes. It's always like, be very clear, very, very firm.
Yeah.
So your voice has to convey your message succinctly and clearly. Because if you sound hesitant, they will rip you apart because they're going to figure out how to manipulate that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So clear, crystal clear. Okay. Great.
Okay. Awesome.
Excellent. Jackie, what worked for you today? You got to unmute.
Am I allowed to offer some?
Yes, you are.
Or whatever. Okay, Debbie, hi. It's really nice to meet you. I can't believe what you do. You have 5 children?
4 and an exchange student. So.
Oh, okay, from another country? Doesn't speak English, right? Okay. Anyway, I'm hearing all of this stuff. I just don't see any time or room in there for you. And that's why I've been curious about how are you going to reward yourself with that $5? Like, and what are you going to do to get that $5 for yourself? Because I see your home and it's beautiful. I see that you take pride in things that, I'm single and my bedroom never looks that tidy.
So we see the laundry on the bed.
Oh, yeah, that's what I push off every night onto the floor. So I just crawl around it. Anyway, I would be curious to find out what you might do for yourself. Because when Blair goes, "Oh, don't say woo." Well, of course not, because the kids are going, "All right, mom doesn't feel like it." Yahoo! They go, right? I'm brushing my teeth or whatever. And you probably don't want to do it either.
Yeah, some days.
When you're like that. So maybe you guys can think about something that you might be able to do differently when you're feeling like that. Something to kind of just get it in another way, even if it's just like school is how we're cleaning up or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like get movement. Because I have to get out of my chair if I'm going to achieve anything in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and you get to see little bits of results if you can get them to do the dishes and stuff like, you know what I mean? Anything. In movement. Yeah. I really see how you love to take care of yourself. I mean, yes. 5 children and running a business and having homeschooling and all of that. Anyway.
Thank you.
It's just kind of what I wanted to say. I'm just sitting here, just kind of watching and listening. I'm sorry I'm being distracted with my dog. He's being sick. But I'm really excited about being back in this again. And anyway,
what worked for you today? tonight.
That just watching whatever was going on, because I never had anybody else's face on here except yours. So it's been really interesting to observe what I see different people clicking with and not kind of functioning and with it, or you know what I mean?
Yep.
Just like you're observing when people are yawning or whatever. It's interesting. I'm really looking forward to coming to Edmonton.
And it's in less than 10 days. Oh, it's 9 days.
Yeah.
9 days.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay. So thank you. So 1 to 10. Did you already give me a number? Jackie? 1 to 10?
Oh, give you a number. Oh, okay. Come back to that too, because I have 2 numbers.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna write those down.
Okay, Colin.
Before I forget.
I always love it, Blair. Just listening to you speak. At the end of the day, I did what I did and sort of learned from you guys what I could, and went away and became very successful in many different ways. Not even just my relationship and family and my daughter, but the concepts that you do teach from my heart. It was amazing what I learned, but when I sort of went a little bit further with you and I started influencing others to be more like what I was doing and focus on the successes that I had, that was when it became very enlightening.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing for me that I could share some of what I know with people around me, and it transformed a lot of people's lives. And they're very thankful for me. And again, I have to sort of say to you that I'm thankful to you for what you've taught me, because I've had so many tremendous people come back to me and say, thank you. Cool. And I'm just saying thank you back.
Thank you so much. So effectiveness for the day, 1 to 10?
10 for me.
Okay, cool. Katrina. I was going to go to Debbie, but she popped off. So anyway.
It worked for me?
Yeah.
Just, I'm not very consistent. Like I said, I'm just doing this, like it's new to me. And I can see the changes in my life and my relationships. So I'm excited to go to the training, because I want to know more, and I can only imagine the changes it will make in my life if I practice everything that I'm learning.
So true. So Jackie, Katrina, Jackie, you're both in Mind Model Coach training, just so that you know. Yeah.
Hi, Jackie. See you soon.
Sarah Lynn, what worked for you tonight, and score of 1 to 10?
Well, a lot worked, but I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed, I think.
Yeah.
I think I just need to kind of absorb it, because I don't know, there was a lot of things that hit on a lot of things in my life, and I just feel like my head is spinning a bit, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm growing, so that worked.
Okay. Good.
So
good.
I might be emailing you just to kind of get some guidance a little bit on it. But
Skype or text tend to work a little bit better, because I get hundreds of emails a day, so I just don't go through them like I should. So
sure.
just
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then I will do that. But I like the system, I guess, because I can be so scattered, and just having some sort of system and just challenging my beliefs, because I'm one of those that have a hard time believing that I could even make 100,000 a year, and like when somebody's like, oh, you can make $1 million, I'm like, okay. So it's just challenging that inner belief and having a process to kind of work through that, and then having a process to stay disciplined in my business and kind of going from there. So that really worked for me. Just trying to kind of get that all down and pat in my head, I think is like what I need to do for sure.
So cool.
So yeah, I would say like 9, 10 for sure. I mean, it definitely helped.
That's so cool. And I got to thank you, Trevor, for responding on Facebook. I just noticed I've got a bunch of people. Samantha, thank you.
Yeah, I've been representing you on Facebook.
You have been, and so I love it. I like the fact that Brandy.
So don't piss me off, Blair.
No. Yeah. So anyway, you're off, Jackie. You take care. Brent, what worked for you tonight?
You're muted, Jackie.
Sorry. You know what? I'm going to take a huge risk. Okay.
Sure.
Really huge risk. Oh, okay. I'm gonna talk about how I've been affected, and I know that anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter where or who I am. This is how I'm being affected for whatever place where I'm coming from.
Yep.
And what I find for myself is I need to really learn how to be patient, because when I feel impatient, I get this and it's like I want to be pushing things along, and it's more, when you're talking about ask and tell, like giving a really push. And I wonder if that's where I used to have a nickname in life skills one time, because Mary Bichette called me a bulldozer. And I'm thinking back to that, 30 odd years ago, thinking, wow. Anyway, the long and short of it is, even though I deeply get lots of stuff, and I just love to hear the summaries of whatever everybody else is getting, I would give this evening to you 6.5.
Okay. Super.
Can I give you any more information?
I'm just accepting it. Thank you.
Okay.
If you want to give me some more, you can.
Okay.
I don't need any more. I'm just looking for that. So that's cool.
So what I found, and this is where I'm taking a big risk, and I've got to start taking them because I'm going to have to do it in the group in Edmonton, right?
Yep.
Okay. I find there is a little tendency on your side. I find your stories go over and over a little bit too much for me. And when it's a story of something, it really gets you on an emotional level, but I also find it very difficult to pull myself out of that again and pay attention to the actual skill that we're doing at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I noticed. Anyway.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Cool. Brent.
Yeah. So what I got from today was the language part. I've noticed that myself before, and I've had the negative self-talk and telling myself negative things, like you said, is habitual. As growing up, it seems prevalent everywhere, and that's something I've noticed in sports and working out was very negative. And then to turn that on its head, to turn the positive side, the results are tremendously different when you're using that positive language and that. So that was what I got the most out of from today. So
super well done. Super well done.
Yep. And the effectiveness for me it was an 8. Yeah.
Solid. Perfect.
Yep.
Trevor.
One of the things that I wrote down that I liked was, where did it go? You were talking about one of your clients and how the slower that they went and the less that they took on, the more that they got done and the more money they made. And I just kind of quoted that because I thought that was awesome. It's not quite a new idea, but just kind of the way that it was put together. I liked everything that was kind of encompassed in that one sentence.
Super great. Thank you so much. 1 to 10 from you today?
I'd give it a 9.
Solid. Super. Well, guys, great night. Good work, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for showing up. Christine Anderson, hey, thank you so much for joining and staying on this long. Thank you so much. And Tim, as always, say hi to Rebecca and whatnot. Looking forward to you guys coming to Edmonton in 9 days as well. So anyway, you guys take care, and we'll see you next week, if not on one of the other little lives. And by the way, Tim, super appreciate when you jump on those short ones and say hi or say something. Always super. And say hi to Rebecca for that. Sarah Lynn, same thing. So if you do see me on Facebook, pardon me, jump on, say hi, comment, do something. It's really super appreciated. Okay. So you guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now. Same time next week.
Blair.
Thanks.